The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. If you remember Stan Lee, he was a hype man. That's kind of, I don't know, feels denigrating to describe him that way. He did, of course, more than that. And depending on who you talk to and, who you want to believe, he either did a lot more or a lot less. I guess is the way it works out for a lot of people. But one of the things that I've heard both critics and supporters say alike, and sometimes in fairness, the critics say so derisively, is that Stan Lee was a pitch man. He was a hype man. He was somebody who would come in and let's get you excited about something. And, in the time that he was active with Marvel, a single human being that element could make a big difference. Today, it's for big corporations, not quite that simple. But all the same, if you think about Marvel or you think about DC, and in many ways, I think DC is doing this slightly better than Marvel. Who is the hype man at Marvel right now? Tom Brevoort? C.B. Cebulski? Look at C.B. Cebulski for a second. He is, by all accounts, when you talk to people, a kind of jovial, cheerful guy. Whenever somebody's heavy, jovial, it's like, that's the word. It's a rotund and jovial man. I don't know why. Anyway, but at any rate, he's a relatively happy guy. He passionately cares about comics. So whatever you believe about anything else, he passionately cares about comics and food. But comics, he does. He has a legitimate for comics. And yet, you still wouldn't describe him as like a hype man, like a Stan Lee. Over at DC, I think Jim Lee is a good spokesman for DC Comics, or is he really? I mean, he sounds positive. He obviously is known in the industry, kind of legendary name. But who's the person who comes out and goes, "Wow, the excitement is infectious. This person really, really loves this comic more than I do. I don't completely know why, but now I feel like I want to go buy some comics." Who's that person for Marvel or DC? And I would say they don't exist. Image is decentralized, but it strikes me as odd is if you are a reasonably big name creator, if you're a Scott Snyder, being a absolutely over the top infectious hype man would probably be reasonably good for your career. He's written a lot of books for different companies, done comicsology. The last couple of years, been pushing on the kind of the indie type scene, done the classes on Substack. His name is smaller than it was 3 years ago, kind of just by nature being out of the spotlight. But right now, if he does start to do some bigger books, he'll come back up to that same level as being a writer people know about. But what the industry needs, what he needs, and not just him, lots of people, is that Stan Lee hype. I'll read this mail, but it kind of feeds into a little bit of this. It says, "Hey Perch, so I have a question. It actually kind of pushes back on what I think has been conventional wisdom. The best questions do. So with Kamala Khan, I feel like I'm supposed to care that she's now a mutant. But why should anyone? Sure, this is the most interesting thing that's happened to Kamala in a while, but that isn't saying a whole lot. I mean, what exactly is this going to change other than will she'll be diminished as she becomes a member of the X-Men? Just a new victim of the Krakoa era." By the way, I don't know if she's actually going to become an member of the X-Men. I mean, maybe. But I know the ads have been, she's a member of the X-Men or welcome to the X-Men. But I think they mean that more generically. And because if you really, if you take mutants as an allegory for race, then saying welcome to the mutants is kind of that lands weird. But anyway, back to mail. It says, "And this has been my own personal issue with comics. Everyone talks about everything is being changed, but if you notice, everything is being changed in the most mundane and reversible ways imaginable. I'm waiting for the issue of Spider-Man where they tease something big, and the revelation is Peter Parker has a roommate." Dun, dun, dun. They actually did. A few years ago, that was a big, what is the major change that's happening to Peter Parker's life? And he got a roommate. Even the changes of mantles has become boring. Remember when changes of mantles usually came about because something awful happened to the first person, and the second person in the mantle had an arc where they'd go kind of insane, and it would tee up the return of the original guy or something. We just don't get that anymore. It's literally just someone shows up and sort of just becomes the new one. Is it just me, or all these twists and turns of modern comics just so boring and mundane? Maybe the publishers maybe the publishers need to bring back fridging so people actually have something to talk about. It's not sexism, by the way. I'd be just entertained if some man got shoved in a fridge. Make Major Force great again. Yeah, thanks. On a side question, let's say you get to pick the next writer and artist to shake up the X-Men post-Krakoa. Who do you want to see on that book? Yeah, I'd put Rick Remender on the book. At Marvel, I'd just kind of give up. You're like, fuck it. We had this plan, and then it went all sideways because of a bunch of political scheming and other bullshit. So, but he's not, we're going to put Remender back on this book. We'll put Remender back on one book, put Joe Casey on the other. That's what we'll do. And we'll just let them run like crazy. Yeah, I know those two have completely different styles, but still, why not? Artist on the book? I don't know. I think there's a lot of good artists. I think the trick would be, hey, Oliver Capil, you're going to do a monthly book. How much do you want? Or just any of these, artists that have good experience with the X-Men, put one of them on. But yeah, let's put Remender on. Basically Marvel's pitch would be, hey, remember when this guy did X-Force and it was, you liked it, and it was probably one of the longer runs of the X-Men in a long time that people actually cared about. Remember that? There's a couple other people I have in mind for the X-Men too, but I don't want to say, but that's my cheap, quick answer. Anyway, but the reason why I led with kind of the hype is because who's the person or the technique or the marketing campaign, and thank you for the mail, by the way, that sells this through? I have a feeling like if this was the 70s and Stan Lee was out there like, hey there, true believers, can you believe what's happening to Miss Marvel? Oh my God, this character, this is an amazing, it would be over-the-top marketing. But I think people need that. Everybody likes to be, that we went through the 90s and then we came out the other end and everybody's like, we should be cynical. We need that. I'm a member of Gen X, obviously, but, Gen X goes, we're not going to fall for that hype anymore. We don't buy it. We need authenticity. I think having gone through, the social media era and COVID and everything else, I think people want a little less authenticity, as indicated by, Instagram filters and everything else. I think this is an area that conventional wisdom is that comic fans are too smart to fall for the kind of hype that Stan Lee used to use. I think, nope. And it's has nothing to do with intelligence. I think people want to genuinely feel like something is exciting again. And I think people in comics need to step up to the plate and figure out the handful of people that are going to go out there and be the evangelists, be the hype men, or women, be the marketers. Marie Javins is over at DC. What does she do? Does anybody know? What's interesting is social media and YouTube and everything else spent, whatever it was, 9 months. How long did Daniel Cherry have his job? Just speculating, like, what's Daniel Cherry do? Like really intense over that. And a lot of that had to do with a couple sentences in his LinkedIn profile, which seemed to indicate social justice. Now, none of those things really ever came to pass at DC, but his career is tiny. But there's a lot of people just wondering every day what he did. Marie Javins, what does she do? Has anyone seen her? Do we need to send out a search party? Seriously, where is she? The only news you hear about Marie Javins is that she goes to conventions and asks around for a job. So, yeah, I'm not picking on her, but you look at I am, I guess, but not her alone. You look at the leaders of these companies, and who's the person who's going to kind of put on half of a costume, to keep the face exposed, go to San Diego Comic-Con, walk around the halls and go, God damn it, I love comics. I love being here. I love what we're doing over at Marvel or DC or whatever it happens to. Well, I love this business. I know deep down in my soul, I am an introvert. I don't like to go out and do this kind of stuff. I don't want to be out here. I don't want to do this. However, I am on a lot of cocaine right now, and so I'm just gonna be my extrovert self, and I'm gonna hype the shit out of these comics. Like, who? Somebody needs to do that. I mean, minus the cocaine. Well, or not. I don't know. I just watched the John Mulaney special on Netflix, so I'm like, oh, for some people, maybe. No, I'm kidding. Thank you, YouTube demonetization. Uh, but seriously, somebody needs to come out and show some enthusiasm and excitement, because otherwise you get what the letter writer is saying here, which is none of the changes land or matter. Once upon a time, Stan Lee could have hyped up Peter Parker getting a roommate as a big deal, and people would have been legitimately excited about it. Truthfully. Comics is missing that human element. And maybe in 2023, some of that element has to be replaced by a team and a social media account. But right now, my feeling is that if you use ChatGPT to say every day, some low-level staff at Marvel woke up and said, write me a hype article for what Marvel is doing. You spend a little bit of time training it so it knows what comics Marvel's putting out. I have a feeling you'd get more excitement and enthusiasm from an AI bot than from people, and that is a problem. When comics are in the state they're in right now, you need people to come forward and be excited about them, to raise the hope and the enthusiasm of the readers. And again, half the people are just missing. It's a tough industry, and the creative industry does lend itself more to introverts and people who don't like to do this kind of thing. And that's one of the reasons why Stan Lee stood out. And one of the reasons why I said somebody like a Scott Snyder or any number of people should look at that, realize it, and go, there's an opportunity here. There's a void. If I come out and I aggressively hype comics, some of my peers are going to be looking at me like, oh, that's so cringe. But your fans, the people who are spending money, are going to love you because there's no oxygen in the room at all. Hype. Anyway, what do you think? And yes, I know that like the obvious, again, I'm Gen X. The obvious Gen X would, well, if the comics were exciting, you would need somebody to hype them. Not true. These are decoupled. They're not the same. Even if comics were exciting, you still need somebody out there to go and shout the message out. Every industry knows this. Yeah, put out better comics. Absolutely. Agreed. For sure. But show some excitement and some enthusiasm for the ones you got. Just as important. Thanks for listening.